Previously on the Youth Leadership Debate.
To try to force people who find it difficult, protectorates we are widely separated in government, customs and general ideas about life, both in this and
new regional governance in the Nigerian context. It is a decentralized system of government with semi-autonomous units, which marginalization in whatever form is moral, and no amount of English or legal jargon will change what it is. Sheer wickedness.
Young people are oftentimes the prime agents of change and oftentimes also the most affected by change in the socio-political context of Nigeria. The huge population of youth in Nigeria signifies a potential trigger of a socio-political transformation in the nation's democracy. Events of the past few years, such as EndSARS and its Sorosoke anthology, are clear examples of the shift in the socio-political space that could take place if the youth intensify their advocacy for good governance and, more importantly, participation in governance. In Nigeria, the youth constitutes over 40% of the country's total population, and if properly groomed for national development, Africa, and indeed Nigeria, has one of the most treasured and most enviable assets in the world. The question, however, is, does the Nigerian government recognize this fact? To what extent has the Nigerian government tapped the potential of this young population to achieve its development agenda? Before Nigeria gained her independence from British colonial rule in 1960, youths of the country played an active role in leading the country to self-governance. In 1953, a youthful Anthony Inaoro moved the first motion for Nigeria's independence, which was eventually granted in 1960 after several political setbacks in the parliament. Inaoro has been regarded by academics and many Nigerians as the father of Nigeria state. His initial motion for Nigeria's independence suffered a setback in the parliament, with some members staging a walkout because of the motion. Notwithstanding the defeat, a movement was started on account of this motion, and pressure was now mounted against colonialism, which led to agitations for independence of Nigeria, or at least self-governance. Nigeria's independence from British colonial rule was eventually granted in October 1960. There has, however, been a stunted growth in the number of young people taking active participatory role in Nigeria's politics. This is largely due to events such as military coups and dictatorships that have occurred through the years at the very top of government. The youth leadership debate is about giving confidence to young people's voice, leveraging their voice as an effective tool to bring about a transformed Nigeria. The program is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa and funded by the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. On this episode, we will focus on the final contest in semi-final series where contestants from University of Ilorin and Ahmadu Bello University go head-to-head. The topic before them is, the current Nigeria education system is sufficient for a highly and globally competitive workforce. Contestants from Ahmadu Bello University will argue in favor, while those from University of Ilorin will argue against it. Now, in a study carried out by DataFight, a media, research and data analytics organization which publishes data as a tool for socio-economic development of Nigeria, Nigeria's labor force statistics as at 2020 shows that about 74% of Nigeria's workforce population did not possess education beyond secondary school level. As low as 35.5% completed secondary education. It also shows that 19.7% never attended school and 18.5% completed primary education. Only 8.7% had a bachelor's or higher national diploma degree, 8.1% had a Nigerian Certificate in Education NCE or Ordinary Diploma qualification, and for postgraduate education, less than 1% had master's and doctorate degrees. More interestingly, vocational education, which represented only 0.35% of the workforce population, had the most percentage of fully employed persons, 56%. This is followed by master's degree holders, 55%, doctorate degree, 51%, primary education, 48%, and senior secondary education, 46%. The lowest percentage of fully employed people were those that had below primary school education, 27%, first degree holders 40%, and those that never attended school 40%. There is no gainsaying that these statistics reflect in the nation's economic outlook, and one could say leaves a lot to be desired. But how will the contestants dissect this topic? Our moderator reads out the terms of engagement and beckons on the first speaker from Ahmadu Bello University.
The Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And today they're going to be debating the topic, the current Nigerian education system is sufficient for preparing a highly and globally competitive workforce. In support of this argument is the Ahmadu Bello University, which is comprised of team members Jafar Amina, Mukhtar Sadia, Ibrahim Usman Abubakar. And opposing this motion is the University of Ilorin, Paul Davida Omosomi, Usman Halimat Ojoni, and Babatunde Oluwabukumi Ikeoluwa. These people are going to give their best statements, and we'll also leave it to the judges to give us the verdict on who is winning this round. Remember that the people who make it out of this round will be debating at the platform tomorrow to win 1.5 million naira and other consolatory prizes. I hope to see you then, and I hope that you stay tuned now to hear these wonderful people speak about this topic. Miss Amina, you're going first, and I want to remind you that you have 5 minutes to start your arguments, and you also have 5 minutes. Your second speakers have 3 minutes, and you have 1 minute each per team to crystallize your points and provide rebuttals if any.
To set the background for her argument, Amina, the lead speaker from ABU, starts off first by reliving a period in her life when her mother provided her with some guidance that became handy.
My mother taught me to make a savory Nigerian dish, you need only locust bean. Years later, the Maggi seasoning cube became the vogue. It became my responsibility to decide whether to stick to the locust bean, use the Maggi seasoning cube, or incorporate both. But the fact still remains. The locust bean is the basis for me learning how to cook. And this is the same case with the Nigerian education system, which in the past 18 years has prepared me to stand on both feet wherever I find myself. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Amina Jafaru, a representative from Ahmadu Bello University, and I stand before you to propose the claim that the current education system in Nigeria is sufficient in preparing a highly competitive workforce.
Amina goes on to define some important programs in Nigeria's education system and how it relates to the topic of discourse to give some strength to her argument.
Firstly, the National Policy on Education governs the education system. In Nigeria, the current education system is the 934 system, which means the 9 years of basic education, 3 years of secondary education, and 4 years of tertiary institution. The basic education curriculum structure of primary schools in Nigeria includes electives of agriculture, home economics, and Arabic from primary 1 to 3. French is included from primary 4. Now, it is expected that every Nigerian child who goes through the new program and comes out of the junior secondary school should have learned at least one pre-vocational study and the basis of an international language. Also, in the senior secondary level, the new curriculum has captured pre-vocational and entrepreneurship studies to enable youth acquire critical skills of entrepreneurial attitude. What am I trying to say? I am trying to say that at the levels of the basic and secondary system in the 934, the levels of the basic and secondary levels in the 934 system, the curriculum allows an individual to be taught skills for preparation and the global competitive workforce.
Then came Halima, the first speaker from University of Ilorin, arguing in opposition. She wasted no time to start a rebuttal of her opponent's claims.
Now on argumentation. Firstly, funding deficit and resource gap. According to UNICEF, over 10 million Nigerians are out of school. This is one of the highest in terms of statistics in the world. It's even worse when over 27 million Nigerians are performing poorly within the Nigerian educational system. These are the insufficiencies and the inefficiencies of the Nigerian educational system.
Not done yet. She brings up another inadequacy in the current educational system.
To be a globally competitive workforce, you need your labor force to be able to compete fairly, especially in terms of the status quo as well as improvements in terms of the curriculum. Sadly, within the Nigerian system, we've been using the same curriculum for the last 25 years, as was revealed by the Committee of VCs in the tribunal just in May 2022. What this means is that you still have Nigerian students being taught with notes that their uncles and aunties 20 years ago were also being taught by. The impact of this is that you would continue to churn out graduates that lack the technical know-how to be able to compete fairly within the global scale as much as other individuals from these other countries are able to compete, right? What it also means is that you're likely to have graduates who are unable to compete based on these technological advancements. Take, for instance, where you have other climes incorporating within their curriculum things like metaverse, things like blockchain technology, and other beneficial technological advancements within their courses. Sadly, within the Nigerian system, we're faced with the lack of resources as well as the lack of technical know-how to be able to compete fairly.
She concludes by saying, given all the mentioned inadequacies, the Nigerian educational system was due for a refitting to modern times.
Exclusively, ladies and gentlemen, I have been out of school for the last 7 months. And even worse, I've had to study a medical course that should have lasted for 6 years for the last 8 years. I resonate with the insufficiencies of the Nigerian educational system. We all resonate with the insufficiencies of the Nigerian educational system. So much so that a journalist with the conversation, Omowumi Olabode, put our thoughts into context when she said that the Nigerian educational system is an assorted crisis of infrastructural decay, neglect, waste of resources, and a sordid condition of affairs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Nigerian educational system needs a complete overhaul. Thank you.
We were often told a lie growing up that we're leaders of tomorrow. And as I went through my 20s, I realized that the people who told me I was a leader were still leading in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, or should we say ruling. So the issues that plague Africa are still the issues that plagued Africa 20 years ago when we started.
Africa as a continent has been known as an emerging market, and you can't separate the opportunities from the young people.
And we can only develop if young people are empowered and equipped to have the space to express their brilliance and passion.
And if you look at the innovations, the new ideas, the creativity, you see that the young people are the ones who are really leading the way.
There are many bright spots, and where you see those bright spots in Africa, they're really linked to effective, committed, and dynamic leadership. Young people are agents of change, and that's the vision we have.
Now, Sadia, the second speaker from Ahmadu Bello University, gives examples of Nigerian trained professionals that have taken over industries of advanced economies of the world.
Firstly, the opposing team argued that Nigerian schools are bedeviled by a number of ills such as funding deficit, poor infrastructure, students taking longer to graduate from schools. These are all obstructions, like my first speaker has already mentioned, not the fault of the education system. In fact, Fast Forward is an action research pilot project founded by the British Council and MacArthur Foundation and implemented by Leap Africa. It has been designed to assess the model for teaching employability skills to public secondary school students across Rivers State, Cross Rivers, and Lagos, all of which are supporting the education system and preparing a globally competitive workforce. Additionally, as at August 2022, in the current education system, there are no fewer than 9,000 Nigerian trained medical doctors that are practicing in the United Kingdom. These are doctors that pass through the Nigerian education system, and the system not only prepared this globally competitive workforce, it also produced them. The goal of the vocational enterprise institutions, out of many, according to the National Policy on Education, is to provide training that enables students to acquire specialized craftsman skills that empowers them to compete globally. In conclusion, the evidence is uncontested that the current Nigerian education system is sufficient for preparing a highly globally competitive workforce, not only in Nigeria, not only in Africa, but all around the world.
Then came also the second speaker from the University of Ilorin. She gave a couple of examples to make her point, and then followed with a series of rebuttals.
Halima has done a good work making the comparative between Nigeria and the globe. But let's look at the comparative between Nigeria and other countries within Africa. I was invited to attend an academic program in Accra just a few months ago, and I was stunned by the quality academic facilities available at the University of Ghana. This is a country that gained her independence just 3 years before us and has way less money than we do. According to trading economists analyst expectations, Ghana's estimated GDP just comes up to $72 billion, while that of Nigeria comes up to $445 billion. If we have all this money, what proposition needs to tell us is what is happening to all of our funding. But the second argument is on brain drain. The incessant ASU strikes that continue to plague the educational sector, as well as all the accompanying problems, serve as a huge incentive for Nigerians, especially the privileged ones with money, to migrate elsewhere to where there are better educational opportunities. According to the Punchline newspaper, more than 3 million Nigerians currently study in Europe, with 13,000 just applying last year. The impact of this is that our talent and human resources are driven away, thereby reducing our chances at competing effectively on the global stage. Now to targeted rebuttals. The first thing that they do is an attempt to delineate blame and shift it exclusively to the federal government. We can consider that and say that that is true. But what they must realize is that the actions of the federal government still influence the quality of the educational sector. It looks like the federal government is being so corrupt that you have little funds to allocate to these resources. The next thing they say is, oh, we have entrepreneurial skills. I think what they needed to critically do was talk about the nature of these skills and what the demand of the global workforce is. Because even though I appreciate the rhetoric, you can't tell me that craftsman skills, like shoemaking skills, is what is going to prepare you to compete effectively on the global scene. They try to say, oh, we have 9,000 trained medical doctors. The question we should be asking is, what equipment were they trained with in school? Were they trained with candlelight? Were they trained with desk lenses? Were they trained with quality equipment as those that students in Johns Hopkins universities would be used? These are the kind of critical questions they needed to be asking.
Then again, the final chance for both teams to drive home their points.
The education policy acknowledges stakeholders such as the NERDC when they revised the current education system. Also, the opposition mentioned that the curriculum has not been revised, which is also untrue, as this debate topic is about the current education system, which was revised in 2008. They also asked me to tell them what is happening to our money. Like I mentioned earlier, UNICEF blamed the federal government and not the education. I would implore them to remember that this is about whether the education system is sufficient, not what the education system is doing with the money that is not even being allocated to the education system. ASU strike exists to maintain the standards of the education system. No system exists in a vacuum. External forces are bound to affect the system, but this does not become the fault of the system. But if you say external forces make a system insufficient, then you're questioning the pillars on which the system is built. Thank you.
They say that no system exists in a vacuum. That's exactly what we're saying. You can't delineate the actions of the educational system from the actions of the federal government. What the federal government does directly influences how qualified academic facilities in Nigeria happen. The next thing they try to say was, oh, we're actually doing research. And the date they quote is a date from 2008. The question you should be asking is why recent activities aren't being undergone to revise the curriculum, especially with developing trends every day. We have the abandonment of things like cryptocurrency, of the C++, of the blockchain technology. All of these which are not being included in the current curriculum. You can't rely on the dates in 2008 when the world literally changes every day, when we must force ourselves to adjust to the demands of the global sphere.
Finally, it's time to hear what the judges have to say, and Ijeoma Kalu takes us through.
You could see superlative arguments coming from both sides. Like they knew what they were talking about. They understood the assignment. They knew what their objection and they delivered it. So it was really interesting, strong results out from both teams. They're speaking against and speaking for what they believe in.
Concerning task achievement, like 99%. Yeah, they were spot on. We had 4 powerful ladies from Ilorin and Ahmadu Bello, very strongly contested debate. They brought out lots of points, valid points, and they did respond to each other's claims and counterclaims, which was really great. Very interesting way to wrap up the semifinals.
The delivery was great. I love the rebuttals. I also enjoyed that you can tell there's a lot of research that went into it. And even the presentation, and even things that they mentioned, I probably wouldn't have even thought of myself. So they did a great job.
Yes.
That tantalizing encounter marks the end of the semi-final rounds of the maiden edition of the Youth Leadership Debate. 2 teams will move closer to getting the 1.5 million naira top prize with some other juicy benefits. But who are the 2 teams? More interestingly, they will get the opportunity to do it on one of the biggest stages of public discourse in Nigeria, the platform. The second placed team will not leave empty-handed. They will be given 1 million naira with other benefits, and the third place team also gets 600,000 naira with other benefits included. The Youth Leadership Debate is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund (NYFF), implemented by Leap Africa and funded by the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. If you'd like to know more about their operations, kindly visit their website on www.leapafrica.org.